Paul Roscoe White. Man, I really enjoyed talking to Roscoe, and you're going to find out why. His nickname is Roscoe. He was a fighter pilot for the military, 21 years. When he left the military, he kind of found himself in a place he didn't want to be, and he turned it around. He's written a book. He's about to release another book. The big change with Roscoe is that he wants to help people champion their life, and that's the first question I open up with. What gets in the way of people championing their life? And we have a great conversation about how he helps, how he mentors, how he has people have colleagues answer the hard questions in life. What is happiness? What is success? What is freedom? He gives great anecdotes on how he arrives at this place, how he helps others as well. Just really enjoyed this conversation with him. His view on discipline, very, very unique, very unique. He brings in some football coaches' wisdom with it. He started a company, 1 out of 5, based on you know who you hang out with, who you associate with. You eventually become them. But just a great conversation with Paul Roscoe, right? I really, really enjoyed my time with him, and you will as well. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business? And it lasted over 25 years. Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration.
Very cool. I really appreciate your time today, Paul Roscoe White, of course. So, what gets in the way of one being a champion in their life?
I think, just right on the surface, it's probably what you perceive as insurmountable obstacles.
Hmm.
Because perspective is the lens by which we see the world, right? My perspective of things is very different than yours, and it's based on my background and my experiences and my educations and my interactions and things like that. What may be a minor obstacle to me may be a major obstacle to you. And that's why we talk about things like developing the mindset to be able to overcome those things. I know that your platform, you rely heavily on the discussion around discipline, and I kind of take that and I say, well, if you have the discipline and the skill and the confidence, you can become a champion.
Hmm. Hmm. And why help others do that to become a champion, Roscoe?
Well, just look around. How many unhappy people do you see? And
Hmm.
I'm not talking about the Facebook lives that we view through that lens of our little. I heard somebody on a podcast the other day call it my anxiety rectangle, i.e., your phone.
Hmm.
Um, as you view life through that thing, and you're looking into other people, and you're getting that chance to peer into their lives, they're not telling you the bad stuff, right? Generally
Right.
speaking, people are putting only the good stuff. Oh, look at me, I cooked a amazing souffle, or look at this awesome cheeseburger, I did 10 more reps at the gym. It's all good stuff, right? Behind, once they shut that thing off and once they stop posting, I would venture to guess that many people are dealing with some demons or dealing with some hardships or dealing with some kind of obstacle that they're trying to get past or, just the daily goings on of life. And those things, if you're not mentally prepared, it's very difficult to maintain a positive outlook on that. And I talk a lot about maintaining a positive mental attitude. I have a good friend of mine. I don't want to do all the talking here, but um,
I
I have a good friend who we served together. Really, really good old friend of mine, known him for 20 plus. He was an avid motorcycler or motorcyclist, I guess is the correct word. So he's out riding one day. He's down in Tucson, Arizona. Weather's getting pretty in the fall. He's looking forward to driving his bike to work, cleans it up. The next day, he's driving Rose into work and he gets rear ended by a semi and ends up losing his leg.
mm,
So I give it a few days, kind of let emotions die down, let him kind of get a grasp on his new reality, at least a little bit, let the shock wear off some. Give him a call back. Hey, buddy, how's it going, man? Oh, great, man. How are you doing? He was so chipper. He was so happy.
wow.
He was his focus and his outlook. Now, what the part of that story that I didn't tell you was about 6 months earlier, his wife beat stage 4 cancer. Like life had just dealt this couple body blow after body blow, and I mean, and they were landing hard, you know. But they maintained such a positive attitude through that whole thing.
Wow.
You would have never known that he was laid up in a hospital bed with only one leg. And so we started making pirate jokes and that kind
Of
of shit.
course.
And yeah, and humor's one of the best medicines out there. Laughter's the best medicine, all that kind of stuff. If you can't laugh at
Mm,
yourself, who the hell are you going to laugh at?
hmm. Yeah, that's a wonderful story. And you do so you were a pilot for the military for what, 21 years? The
Yeah, so
F-15 is your one.
I was a weapons systems officer. So I was in the back seat of an F-15E. I got a chance to fly in the back seat of the F-16 as a Wizzo is what they're called normally. So the pilot's up front driving the boat, and we're in the back running all the systems. And the two
Hmm.
together make a seriously lethal, deadly platform.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I always didn't quite understand what the back person did. So the pilot is just purely in charge of piloting the craft, and what would you be doing? You'd be more of the surveillance, more than whatever your mission was?
So it depended on what the mission was, but generally
Yeah.
speaking, we kind of broke up things into offensive and defensive, and further broke that down into air to air or air to ground. Not to get
Mm,
too overly tactical and saturate people with jargon they don't understand, but um, in an air to air fight, typically the pilot in the front is going to be running the radar. It's out the front of the jet. He has the best view of the airplane, so it kind of makes sense. If he becomes task saturated, I would take the radar, I would run it and do all that. We share the radios systems. I'm running all the defensive systems for the jet. So I'm taking
mm,
account of the radar warning receivers and, all the different mechanisms that go along with running defense so that we don't get killed. In an air to ground battle,
eh,
it's a little bit different. It is. It's a little bit different. And I hate to use this term, but he's more or less just rowing the boat. We used to joke
mm,
that, hey, man, I need a ride to the target. Get in. And he would drive
hmm.
me to the target. I would release the weapon and lays in the bomb or, get the coordinates or whatever it meant. But I was kind of more or less running the air to ground show. So it really comes down to a division of duties, which is, I mean, translates great to real life, right? You run a business, what it means to delegate and trust but verify and all those kind of little nuanced platitudes that we talk about. But I mean, we lived it day to day and 1.8 hour sorties trying to break things and
Mm.
kill people.
It seems to me that I didn't serve at all, and it just seems to me that these can be so, I don't want to say easily, but can be translated into business and into the post military world. But many
Mm.
soldiers don't make a smooth transition.
Yeah, I think that's a deep rabbit hole to go down and it's a really good question as to like why, and in
Mm,
fact, one of my favorite things, Joey, is I love and I've always relished the opportunity to give back. Any chance that I get to give back to the communities that served me for all these years, I really try to take that, and I try to take it in earnest. And so I signed up with this company a while back. That's um, short one liner. They're kind of like a big brother system for veterans, for transitioning veterans. So you got an old guy like me. I've been retired for 5 years. I'm seasoned. I wear my experience on my face. Those kinds of things. And they kind of pair me up with a younger guy who's maybe he's getting out of the military, he's separating after his first enlistment, 4 to 6 years or something, and allow me the opportunity to help him transition and take stock of the skills that he may not know that he's qualified for, the skills that
Hmm.
he knows or doesn't know that he's attained through his 4 to 6 years. So the guy that I'm mentoring, I got paired up with him about a month ago. He's a great kid. He's 24 years old, so he's just a couple of years younger than my oldest son. Um, and we were talking for the first time on the phone. We did a little Zoom meeting, kind of like this, and kind of a meet and greet, how to get to know each other, and all that kind of junk. And at the end of it, I said, "Hey, man. So hypothetically, let's say that we take this relationship to the next level. Okay, what are you hoping to get out of this?" And he says, "I don't know. Just teach me how to be a man." I got you.
Hmm.
I can do that, man. I got some experience in this, right? I'm a man. I know how to do that stuff, and I've raised 3 boys. I got a bonus kid living in my house for the last year and a half, so I got some credentials behind me to be able to teach you how to be a man. And it turns out, man, the more that we talked, he's a 24-year-old kid. He doesn't know what he
Hmm.
doesn't know. And
Hmm.
as I'm talking to him about building resumes and getting into the job market and things like that, he starts telling me all the things that he's qualified for, and he's listing off the very technical things about his job position that he did in the military. And I said, "Hell, just rewind a second, man. How about your ability to show up on time every time? How
Hmm.
about the fact that you haven't called in sick to work for 6 years? How about
Hmm.
the fact that you know how to dress and groom yourself every day and you look presentable? And when you shake hands, it's firm and with eye contact. Those are soft skills that a lot of veterans, I think, just overlook. They glance over. And I don't care if you're an
Hmm.
infantry guy in the Army, an 11 Bravo, or if you're a fighter pilot in the Air Force. Those skills translate, man. And you as a business owner, how cool would it be to have a guy that you don't have to question. He's dependable. He's going to show up prepared, looking the part every day.
Hmm. Yeah, I also just like you said, the other end of the spectrum is I know a lot of military people that actually ex-military, they get frustrated with corporations because they don't run as regimented and as structured sometimes.
Well,
So they get frustrated with system.
yeah, and I think you're getting to a point. I think you're getting to a good point there. And I've had this discussion with some other people. Is in a lot of times, at least from my viewpoint, in corporate America. Now, I've only been doing it for 5 years, right? I was a
Mm,
military guy for 21 years, but what I see mostly is, generally speaking, a lack of commitment to a common mission.
mm,
And you don't have that in the military. In the military, everybody's moving the ball towards one target, right? It's like a football
mm.
team. If you had a football team and 6 of your players weren't trying to win the game, you wouldn't be a very good football team, right? So I don't know, you're the business guy, you tell me, is that fairly accurate? You got guys that are kind of in it for them, or maybe they have some kind of ulterior motive. They're just there for a paycheck. They're not completely bought into the mission.
Yeah, a lot of times egos get in the way, and there's levels of management, and yeah, there's that definitely happens. I would think to some extent that may happen in the military as well, but since there is one common goal and you're all kind of measured on that, there'd be less of it. Just a guess.
Yeah, you're right. However, one thing that I noticed, at least now, again, my experience isn't as robust as other people, but um, in the military, I think that there's a certain amount of office politics that goes on,
Mm,
and kind of wedging people, and you try to wedge yourself, and I've seen it a lot. And I had the benefit of being an enlisted guy and an officer, so I saw it on both sides, where there is a fair amount of people out there whose goal in life is to climb the ladder,
right.
and they really don't care who they piss off along the way. And sometimes that comes at the expense of making somebody else look bad so that you can
Right.
look good. And I mean, you and I both know that's just no way to go around doing business. Eventually, that shit's going to catch up with you, because eventually people are going to realize, well, dude, you ain't really that good. You just made everybody else look bad. And now you've got
Mm,
yourself up on this pedestal, and we've given you your opportunity. and you fell flat on your face.
Hmm.
Because, at the end of the day, you just didn't do the hard work that it requires to get there, man. That
Right.
whole growth mindset, fixed mindset kind of crap that we like to throw around. But if you're not used to the grind and you're not used to doing the work, if you're just surviving on other people's failures, then you're not growing.
Yeah, well said, Roscoe. So you come out of the military and you start this company to help others, and you base it off a John Rahm quote.
Yeah, Jim Rohn. Yep.
John
Yeah.
Rahm, not the golfer.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim
Well, you're a
Jim
golf
Rohn.
guy. I can see the
Yeah,
transition there easily.
yeah.
Jim Rohn, motivational speaker,
Jim.
highly regarded in the motivational speaking world out
S-
there. Lots of really good sound bites and quotes from that dude. But the one that stuck with me is, "You're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with." And I was brainstorming with another dude on working on another project, trying to get this book out, this compilation book, and we were kind of just throwing some spaghetti on the wall to see what sticks. And I said, well, what if you took that quote and you kind of flipped it on its head a little bit? And instead of looking
Mm,
at, because as soon as I say that to you, you start immediately thinking about the 5 people in your inner circle, right? And how they're
right.
influencing you. Well, Dave over here drinks too much and he's a better golfer than I am, or whatever.
Mm,
Um, but if you looked at it from the point of view as being one of the 5 people influencing someone, that's kind of the direction that we want to take in the 1 of 5 project is,
mm.
if I'm only focused on me and how I influence others, well, then that makes it really easy, right? All I have to do is focus on my own self-improvement and being the best version of me that I can, and hopefully I elevate the people around me. So it's really not
Yeah.
complicated. The math is super simple.
Yeah, you got the more you give, the more you get, and you've got this great worksheet on your website, and I went through it, but the one exercise that you kind of insist that people do is, take off your clothes and look at yourself in the mirror.
Isn't that great? People laugh at it when I tell them that, but seriously, and I'm not joking. I'm not being facetious at all. Strip down and go stare at yourself in front of the mirror for 60 seconds. And if you're happy with the reflection at the end of it, good. Put your clothes back on, go back to work. Right. But I
Mm-mm.
bet you in 60 seconds you can find something deep, deep down in your soul, around your love handles. Maybe you need to shave, whatever it is. But that's the level of detail that I want people to get down into, man, is all of those little things. They add up. You're a reflection of yourself. You're a reflection of your character. And if I don't walk around presentable, if I don't walk around with my shirt tucked in or my jeans not pressed or whatever it is, that reflects on me. Some people don't
Mm.
care. Other people's may view it as sloppy. So all of those little improvement techniques, and I talk a lot about the mind, body, soul balance, right?
Yeah.
I'm really big on that. Mind, body, soul, finances, emotions, all of those things really kind of need to be in balance, man. And I mean, I'm a music fan, right? And I used to love listening to the Dixie Chicks back in the
Mm.
day, and that 3-piece harmony that they had, it just kind of resonates. You can feel it just resonating when they hit it, and they didn't do it, too often to make me just. I mean, it almost brings tears to your eyes when you hear a really good harmony, the old barbershop quartets or something like that. But that's what it feels like when you have your mind, body, and soul in true harmonic balance. You just feel great. You feel like everything's clicking. It's kind of like that flow state that people talk about, everything just works.
Mm. And you don't come out and say it, but it's so very well implied that if you want to get better, you got to be willing to answer the hard questions. You ask questions like, what is happiness? What is success? What is freedom? People can't shoot out answers for that. They have to sit and reflect and give a good answer.
Yeah. So what's the question that you ask at the end of every podcast?
Yeah, there's a few of them, but
Yeah.
I'll wait to tell.
Okay.
How do you
Well, so
measure
we won't spoil that one
success?
then. We
Yeah,
won't spoil
yeah,
that one. I did my
yeah,
homework too. So,
yeah. Obviously.
the beauty about success, and this is just my opinion, man. I'm not a doctor, dude. I'm not a
Okay.
physician. I'm not a financier. I don't know shit about shit. I'm an Alabama boy that served in the military. But uh,
Humble.
my view about it is success and happiness are, you have to define those yourself, right? I can't define that for you because everybody measures it through a different tape, right? And I was coaching football one year, and one of my goals that year was to have fun. Well, then I
Mm,
realized that every single player on my team, every coach on my team, they all measure fun with a different stick, right? So it's not for me to define that for you. I can't define success to you. And personally, we'll close this up at the end when you ask me some questions. But uh, if you put down a finite goal and you reach that goal, have you been successful? Right.
mm,
Well, then my counter argument would be, or my counter question would be, now what?
right.
What are you going to do? Are you going to keep going? Are you going to stop? Are you going to be content with what you have? Well, hopefully the journey getting you there was the success, and
Mm,
when we talk about this continuous self-improvement and that kind of stuff, we talk about progress over perfection. And the everyday winning the small victories kind of deal. Now I got so many recent stories. My wife and I just finished this 75-day challenge, and man, to see her, she was like a butterfly coming out of her cocoon. It was amazing to watch her every single day. It seemed like she was breaking down a barrier, setting a new PR, something like that. And it was really amazing to see. But now she's to the point now where it's just become her normal. Like, she expects to run a couple of seconds faster when she does her mile tests. She
mm.
expects to lift one more rep when she goes to the gym. She expects to read 5 more pages of her book every night, those kinds of things. So you end up setting a new standard. If you got
Yeah.
this continuous process going on, the bar continually elevates. We kind of laugh and joke about the continuously moving goalpost, and you never can quite get there. Well, that's kind of the point, man. The
Right.
point is, don't put a line in the sand, because when you get to the sand, now you end up scratching your head going, well, shit, now what? If you're
Mm.
continually pushing that line out, you got a carrot to chase the whole time, and you can get after it every day trying to get there.
Yeah. The answer to how you measure success should change frequently because you've either achieved it or new factors have entered into your life. You have three boys, I have two girls, something happened to them, and you want to share in that, and there's some success there. It's again, it's these hard questions, and you do a great job. In your spreadsheet, you say, when's the last time you read a book, when's the last time you journaled your body, when's the last time you ate a salad. I think you had a goal at one point of eating 5 salads a week,
Five
I
salads a
believe.
week. Yep.
Yeah. And did you go a week without alcohol, with no soda? Did you stretch? And your spirit, you mentioned spirit, your soul, meditation, prayed, went on a hike, went to church, etc. So again, you're challenging your your uh, your colleague to answer the hard questions. It's a great way of them to be introspective and to really see what they want. Just like the 24-year-old said when he didn't really know how to answer, he just helped me to be a man.
Yeah,
Didn't really have a question there.
that help me be a man is, I mean, it's very open ended, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I can take you outside and teach you how to grill a steak, I guess.
sure, sure.
But I think he was probably digging a little deeper than that, and me and a buddy we're getting ready to start a show of our own, and one of the things that we want
Good.
to he's a former fighter pilot as well, and one of the things that we really want to drill down on is the idea that you have to define your personal values first. Like, that has to be number one, and hopefully that inspection sheet gets you starting to think about some of those things, like what drives you every day, what motivates you to do the things that you do. If you're one of these guys that just wakes up and mindlessly goes to work every day, comes home, watches a TV show, and goes to bed, I
Mm,
could probably make an argument that you're not terribly successful. However you define it, you're probably not reaching it, because you're not you're not gaining any ground, man. In football we say just win the next play or just move the ball. If I can move the ball a little bit every day, man, I'm eventually going to get there, you know? And one of the key points of that spreadsheet is, it's not really written on there, but definitely heavily implied, is the personal accountability. You have to have a tremendous amount of humility, and that's not easy.
mm,
I think that there are some people who are naturally, either nature versus nurture kind of discussion. They're either naturally more humble or not, but it is a skill that you can learn over time, um, based on your experience and based on probably maturity and age and things like that. But you have to be a little bit humble and be able to say, yeah, that's not good enough.
Mm.
or hold yourself accountable, hold yourself to a line. You have your personal responsibilities that you're going to lay out through a coaching program or through, whatever means you come up with. Once you lay those things down, now you have to hold yourself accountable to it. And in order to do that, you have to have a little bit of humility to say, "No, I screwed that up. That's not good enough. I got to redo that."
Yeah, humility. Uh, there's always room for improvement, Roscoe. There's just you have to have that mindset. When I complete surveys 1 to 10, I never give tens because there's just always room for improvement. It's not that don't take a bad that I only gave a 9, but it's just there's always room there, and to be humble and to gratitude is what we're kind of dancing around, isn't it?
Well, I think that's going to be the end result for sure.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's part of your daily ritual is to be thankful for the things. My wife and I always kind of have a saying where we say we want to be thankful for the things that we do have versus jealous for the things that we don't have. Right
Mm,
now, we're truly blessed, man. Got a good job, got 3, 4 good kids, having a chance to really give back to our communities. Our health is in good shape. Our finances
mm,
are in good shape. Mentally, we're very strong. Our relationship is tip top. So we have a lot to be grateful for. But you know, what if you're in a relationship where you suspect the other is cheating?
mm,
Or what if you're just scraping by living paycheck to paycheck? And finding things to be grateful for is hard. Hopefully you
mm,
live in a house, you can be thankful for that. Hopefully the power, the lights and the water's running, you can be thankful for that. That you got to eat dinner tonight, you can be thankful for that. So sometimes you got to break it down into small things. The lifestyle that we live, maybe we look at the bigger picture, and bigger grandiose items or things that we're working towards. But if you're one of those paycheck to paycheck kind of people, the middle class type dude who's getting up and putting a uniform on and going to work every day, sometimes it's really hard to find things that you're grateful for. And it's a challenge, and I would challenge people to start writing that stuff down. I'm not saying that you have to be a disciplined journaler every day. I don't do it every day. I try to write in my journal a couple of times a week and hit the high points, but if you look back over time, now you can start to maybe pinpoint some things like, oh man, that time in my life that I thought was really, really tough ended up teaching me a really valuable lesson. I'm really thankful for that. So it doesn't have to be a material thing. It can be an experience that you're thankful for, or some kind of person that came into your life at just the right time. We've all had those pivot points in our lives where you may not realize. You and I may be having this conversation right now, and 5 years down the road, you start a project and you're like, hey, I remember talking to this guy a long, long time ago. Let
mm,
me go find that episode. And you end up calling me and we strike it up, and you just never know who's going to come into your life at the time that you need it. Right. And I
mm,
forget who the philosopher was that said it. I had it written down somewhere a long time ago, but he says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
mm,
Yeah. So,
mm.
always kind of be mindful of those kinds of interactions, and maybe one day you can look back on it with gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, John Rahm didn't say that, by the way. But, last year you wrote a book, No New Lessons. You lived in Alaska, and you've got these great stories. Your wife couldn't get to work because there was a moose, in the
Yeah.
way, so, why write a book out of everything that you've done? Why is it takes a lot of discipline, a lot of patience. Well, why do that?
Yeah. So that's a funny one. That book wasn't really supposed to be a book. That
I
was
say.
supposed to be it was supposed to be printed out at Office Max, spiral bound on 8.5 by 11 paper, and sent to the 2 guys that were there with me on the trip.
Mm,
Um, but I had started having some conversations with some other people who put me in touch with other people. Again, going back to those pivot points and
mm,
those people that come into your life when you don't expect it, those unexpected encounters. Um, I had started a project. Um, I'll show you the rough draft or the rough version of it right now. This is the one that's coming out here in just a couple
yeah.
of weeks. Hopefully, it's called "Work Hard, Don't Suck." So that project started in January of last year. So January 22. It's been going on about 18 months now. And was sitting in the living room with my wife. My youngest son comes in from football practice, backpack on, hat turned backwards, beats headphones on, walks right past us and goes to his room, slams the door. And I leaned over to my wife and I said, you know what? I think we're done raising our kids.
Mm,
We've taught them, we've given them the foundation of knowledge to be successful in life. Now, obviously,
mm,
as a parent, your job is never done and you're always going to be working and polishing and making them just a little bit better and helping them through hardships and things like that. But as far as like the teaching piece of it, I think we're
mm,
pretty much there. We're at least at like a 95% solution. So I started I started this project. I started writing down just in bullet format all of the dumb dad advice that I've been giving them for 26 years. Things like a saying around our house since they were old enough to understand it was just be a good dude, right? And I try to
yeah.
break that down and tell them what that means to me. What does it mean to be a good dude? I ended up with about 120 of these things.
Wow.
And yeah, it's too much for a book, right? Because my idea
Mm,
was to write one 8.5 by 11 page on each of these topics. I can't hand a 20-year-old a 300-page book from dad and say, read this. So I broke it down, I chopped it in half, and this edition is going to be 61 of the topics. Uh, Through the process of trying to figure that project out, I gotten put in touch with this guy who was a he was a self publisher and he kind of knew the ropes. He was a friend of my wife's. They went to high school together. Got to talking to him, and he asked me, "Well, do you have anything that's ready to go like now?" Because I told him I like to journal, I like to tinker, I like to write and capture things and whatnot. He says, "Well, you have anything that's ready to go right now?" Well, I got this old bus story over here sitting on the shelf, and with a little bit of work, it took a couple of months to get it, kind of finalized and proofed and the way that we want it. But we ended up putting it out in December. Um,
mm,
the the title "No New Lessons" kind of just organically came to us because as I was filling in the story, real talk, I was just putting in these side stories about my wife and the moose and things like that. It was fluff. It was filler. It was just trying to fill up enough space for it to be a book and not be like a little
mm,
pamphlet. Um, but I realized as I was going through it, that's like, hold up, man. Every one of these adventures that I go on, I'm not learning anything new. I'm just same moron doing the same mistakes over and over and over again. Right. So that's kind of where No New Lessons came from. Years and years of tormenting myself in the wilderness, doing the same dumb shit over and over and over again. So, but I try to put a bow on it at the end and wrap it up with some good lessons on maybe how to not make the same mistakes twice and how to win in the long run.
You tell a great story, how nobody, congratulated you or wished you a Father's Day, Happy Father's Day, and something had kind of happened there, and you kind of recollected and recircled things.
Yeah, so that's actually the intro story to Work Hard, Don't
Mm,
Suck. Um, Father's Day 2021 was it was an interesting time around here. And I kind of need to rewind just a little bit on this. Um, Earlier that spring, probably January, February or so, is really when I started to that's really when my journey began. Now I'm going to take another step back real quick. And when I retired from the military in 2018, for 21 years, the military and my kids had been my why for almost everything that I did.
mm,
That between those two things, that's the reason I stayed in shape. That's the reason I read all the time. That's the reason that I was in harmonic balance, right? Well, I lost both of those things within just like a year of each other. I retired from the military, and then my kids got to an age where they just didn't depend on me as much. They've
mm,
gotten their driver's license, they can kind of drive themselves and do and go and see, and they don't require as much input from dad, right? And so for about 3 years, I kind of went downhill. I got really good at watching Netflix and eating Cheez-Its, and which doesn't do a lot of good for your midsection, as I
mm,
found out the hard way. So that spring, I randomly downloaded a book. off of on Audible, and really got into it. Took a lot of notes on it, and that kind of started getting my mind back into, oh man, I really enjoy this. I'd forgotten how much I enjoy researching and learning, and just that continuous journey of discovery, and I started looking at my days for more and more opportunities to be able to listen to this book on Audible. That's when I started going for walks around my neighborhood. Well, after a few weeks, starting to slim up a little bit, starting to eat a little bit better. My ankles and knees
Mm.
don't hurt as much anymore. My back pain's kind of going away. So you can see, you follow the bouncing ball here, right? You can see how all these things are tied together. I was generally happier because I'm getting my spiritual side fed every day by listening to this really awesome book. I'm getting my exercise. I'm learning things because every chapter I'm writing notes and coming back and researching what they were talking about. So they really all interweave together. One of the books, after I finished that one, the next book that I downloaded was Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink,
Mm.
and listened through all that. And I'll give you the one liner for it and save you the 8 hours of listening. It's everything is your fault. Stop being a
Nice.
victim and take control of the things you can control. Right. So with that in mind, Father's Day 2021 comes around, and it was the first Father's Day that I joke about it in my writing. I joke that it was the first Father's Day ever, or in since I had kids, that I thought that I lost the title of world's greatest dad. I didn't get a
Mm.
mug or a teddy bear, or a T-shirt or anything. I didn't get a card. I didn't get a text message or a phone call or anything from the
Wow.
boys. And, normally as a military guy, all those quote unquote special days, they just kind of blend all together. I'm not going to say lose their luster, but when you miss so many of them by deployments or going on trips or just working late or whatever the case may be, you learn to celebrate every day. And the ones that have a little tagline on your calendar, just, I mean, they're there, but okay, whatever. And my standard Father's Day gift for, I don't know, 20 something years has been a Mountain Dew and a Snickers bar. And I don't
Nice.
complain. I like it. I look forward to it. I sit there and I munch it in front of the kids and it's good, all that. So that Father's Day though, nobody said, texted, emailed, nothing. And I woke up the next morning and it kind of stung a little bit. And
Mm.
having those words from Extreme Ownership fresh on my brain, I immediately sat down and introspective. I started investigating how I could have made a difference in this. And what I realized was, again, I had to take a big slice of humble pie. But I realized that as the dad, as the man of the family, we still, in our household, we still hold to kind of traditional values. You know, I view my role in the family as a protector and a provider and a presider. I'm the leader of the family, and it's up to
Mm.
me to see when the ship is going wrong and right the ship. And I'd failed to do that. I had allowed my kids and our family to start to diverge slightly.
Mm.
We didn't do mandatory family nights anymore. We didn't sit around the table a couple of times a week and eat a pizza and just shoot the breeze.
Mm.
Kids are busy, I'm busy, wife is busy, and it's an excuse. It's 100% an excuse. It was all my fault. And once I realized that and admitted it and held myself accountable, then it was easy, right? Called a family meeting, told everybody what happened, and here's how we're going to move forward. We're going to do mandatory family night. We're going to get everybody back on board. I don't care if it's 30 minutes a week, get your family together and have a conversation, laugh,
Mm.
watch a show together, eat dinner together. One of the things that we started, one of the things, probably the most awesome byproduct of that was we created a family text message chain. And
Mm.
it is hilarious. Like all my kids are grown, right? My youngest boy just turned 18, graduated high school. So the jokes that come out of there are adult level, funny jokes, right? And with the internet age, you can find just about anything out there. And
Sure.
it's a never-ending shit talking platform between all of us. It's great. The conversation never dies. So you know what? Again, gratitude, right? Yeah, that Father's Day kind of sucked, but look at what came out of it.
Mm. Yeah, and uh I'm sure you laid it out in a way that they didn't feel as if they were punished. You laid it out in a way of, okay, I've done something here. We need to kind of circle back around.
Well,
So
I
that's
took
just a
ownership
delicate
of it.
dance.
I I
Yeah,
I took
yeah,
ownership of it, and I let them know it wasn't their fault. They were doing what they were
right.
naturally gonna do. They're teenagers and
Mm,
they're looking for as much space as they can get. It's my fault. It was 100% my fault for not saying, "Hold up, come back in here. Let's sit down and just chat for a little bit. How was your day? How was football practice? Oh, the coach still sucks. Okay, got it. See you later." You
mm,
know, it's not that difficult. I have a chapter in Work Hard, Don't Suck that's it's titled Bama Football, right? And the whole chapter is about finding something that your family can rally around, right? Because ha- are your girls grown?
yeah,
Yeah.
23 and 20.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you've experienced this, no doubt, right? They get up to a certain age and they have to write their own narrative. They have to live their
yeah.
own life and create their own stories, right? Well, that's a natural part of just evolution and the evolution of a family and the growing up of a person, right? So I don't nobody's at fault with that. That's perfectly natural, but you have to have something as a family that you can come around once in a while. And when I was growing up, it was grandma's dining room table on Sunday afternoons. After
Mm,
church, we all went to grandma's house and, whipped up something to eat. Some days it was fried chicken, some days it was a pot of peas, but
mm,
the point is we all got around once a week and just enjoyed each other's company. And that's what the whole chapter is about is find in your family, your individual families, find something that you can rally around. If you like to read, all of you read the same book and then get together at the end of the week and talk about it. If you
mm,
like the Marvel movies, you can dissect that for ages going down the Marvel
mm.
Cinematic Universe. Our family, we've always been a football family. So it's super easy. We talk football 365 days a year.
Wow.
Yeah, it keeps a conversation going. Even my wife gets into it. We do a family March Madness bracket every year, and we have a little trophy that we pass to the winner, and you get bragging rights for a year. Little things like that. I think just keeps people looking forward to it. Keeps the conversation going. My middle son is about to turn 21. He's been the commish for our family fantasy football league for about 5 years
Mm,
now. And even my wife gets into it. She does an auto draft every year. She doesn't care about who the players are, but she'll get in there and talk smack with the best of them.
mm.
Yeah.
Just those small things can really bring families together like that, and it's so important. Especially, we opened up the conversation where you mentioned somebody said, the rectangle stress, the phone,
Yeah.
and that kind of separates people. You've got great quotes, Roscoe, up on your Instagram, that I really enjoyed. Don't increase the goal, increase the effort, and I think that's really what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you set audacious goals, it's going to take a tremendous amount of effort, and if you're
Right.
not willing to do that hard work, then you kind of don't deserve to reach the goal. You know, the the things that I teach my kids, the things that I mentor youth men specifically, and women too, but specifically to men. I coached youth football for 8 seasons, right? And one of the things that we continually impressed to these kids was you have to deserve to win. And if you don't come out
Mm.
here and give effort, then you don't deserve it because
Hmm.
the other team worked their ass off. They are the ones that are going to win. And Tim Tebow has just an awesome quote. Um, Somebody else said it, I'm sure, but then he requoted it, and that's kind of what's getting passed around the internet. But it says, this isn't going to be word for word, but it says somewhere out there, there's a guy that's working harder than me, and when we meet, he will win. And so
Mm.
just let that sink in for just a second.
Right.
And if you want to be a winner, and I don't care what you're trying to win at. If you're wanting to win at your next golf game, you better work harder than the other guy because there's no easy button in life. Nobody's going to hand it to you. Stop being a victim, get off your ass and do the work.
You know, it's very true, and that's a really good quote. I have heard it before, but you hear many of these quotes and you kind of forget them. But when they come back to you, hopefully you'll kind of implement them just a little bit more. As you know, I started my company back in the 90s. I wasn't paying attention to myself, much like yourself, eating Cheetos and, Netflix. I was just working too hard, not taking care of my body, got up to 340 pounds. doctor said, I wasn't going to see my daughter graduate. I lost about 130 pounds over the next year. People always ask me how, and I always say discipline. They want some quick answer to a multi-trillion-dollar business, right? The weight losing just machine is just expensive and um, not worth it, by the way. But that's another discussion. So I just wonder how discipline, given your background in the military and everything before and where you are now, how it plays a role in your life.
Um, Such a simple word with such a deep meaning, right?
Mm,
Um, Layers. Um, so I'll tell you a little story about how I applied just some discipline, and really that discipline helped forge something else, another rabbit hole to go down that's related and equally, I think, equally important is mental toughness. Um, about this time last year, Memorial Day last year, I was in Alabama visiting family. I took my whole family down there, and I have a history of really bad back pain, really bad back problems. You spend so many hours in an injection seat in an aircraft pulling 9 Gs, it'll literally break your body. And my body's
wow.
broken all to pieces. I've already had one back surgery, probably end up having another one, but whatever, right? My back, my surgeon told me, says you've probably done your last burpee. You're probably not going to run anymore. Um,
Mm,
Probably sticking to the elliptical and doing some walking. Well, last fall had a pretty bad back episode. Or sorry, 2 falls ago, had a pretty bad back episode. Took me a little while to recover from that, and I said, you know what? No more crazy exercises. I'm just going to walk and do my elliptical, and that's it. And I did that for
mm,
about 4 months, and I don't know what happened along the way, but back pain kind of went away. Started feeling really good, and it was just from walking and doing my elliptical. And we were in Alabama last year, Memorial Day, and out walking one morning, listening to an audio book, and I saw a tree about 100 yards away, and I said, I'm going to try to jog to that tree, and I made it. I went for it, and I made it. All right, and it wasn't pretty. It was an ugly jog. Might not even classify it as a jog to some people, but I did it, right? And so then I said, well, there's another tree. Let me try to, and I started stringing these trees together, right? And I didn't jog far. I think probably all together, I might have jogged 400 or 500 yards. But that was the first really jogging that I had done in about 5 years, 4 or 5 years, right?
mm,
So now keep that mindset and keep that going. And everything that we've talked about in this podcast up to this point about setting goals, moving the goalpost, keep stretching it out, right? Keep that carrot out there for you to chase. I strung that together and strung that together and strung that together and kept increasing and kept pushing a little bit harder and kept trying. And my, unfortunately, my knees and my ankles just won't let me run every day like I used to. So I only run
mm,
2 or 3 times a week. In January, this past January, I'm sitting in the living room on a Sunday, dead scrolling Facebook because I'm bored, and I get an ad that pops up. That's an ad for an Xterra trail running race here in Phoenix, in one of the mountain ranges here outside of Phoenix. And I told my wife, I was like, I kind of want to try this. I kind of want to see if I can go do this. And so the next morning, I got up and I ran 5 miles without stopping. I was like, okay,
wow.
well, I'm not dead. All right, so I can run five. A few days later, on Thursday, I got up and I ran 6 without stopping. And I signed up for the race. As soon as I walked in the house, I signed up for the race. That Sunday, I went out there and I ran a half marathon through the White Tank Mountains out here.
Mm,
Lots of elevation gain and all that. And I'd set a goal time out there for me of 2 hours and 30 minutes. I didn't know if that was reasonable or not, but it gave me something to aim for, you know. And I finished in 2 hours and 38 minutes. Turns out my
mm,
body it wasn't prepared for a 13-mile run, but my mind was strong enough, and my mind propelled me through it. At some point about mile 9, my legs just gave out. It's all downhill at that
wow.
point, and my legs just kind of gave out. So the goal became just finish without stopping, which I did.
Mm,
Um, so tying it all back together, right? Now I was talking about mental toughness. That was a display of mental toughness, but I got to that point by having the discipline to do those 100 meter tree to tree runs for
mm,
about 6 to 9 months or so, right? So you have to be able to do the things consistently over and over and over. And Nick Saban, coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, Nick Saban talks about discipline, and he says you have to do what's right. You have to do it how it's supposed to be done, when it's supposed to be done, and you have to do it like that every time. And that's
Mm.
discipline.
Hmm. I never heard that quote before. And in the military, there's a certain amount of discipline that's just it's just compulsory. And um, did you have a hard time adjusting that? You said you were enlisted and then unenlisted. Did you have a hard time adapting to that kind of structure and discipline in the military?
No, I mean, I went to the military. I was 20 years old when I went. I tried college right out of high school and failed miserably.
Right.
Um, so I joined more or less out of necessity. And at that time in my life, now it's easy to look back on this, with a humble eye and say, "Man, I really needed that. I needed somebody to grab
Mm.
me by the face mask and shake me around a little bit." Um, but that, like basic training, and then the school that I went to right after basic training, our technical school, that really set the foundation for how to operate um, every day. You're expected to get up on time. You're expected to dress
Mm.
appropriately. You're expected to show up with knowledge and capability every day. And I mean, some of your listeners who aren't familiar with the military may be able to relate to this, but on the other side of it and go, you know what? If I'm having a bad day, I can just call in sick. Well, there ain't none of that shit in the military, man. You get your butt
Mm.
up, you make your bed, and you go.
I like your three P's, and you always hear these and plan, posture, and perform.
Yeah.
Did you arrive to them yourself?
Well, it's a combination of just a lot of things, right? We always in my world, in the flying world, we talk plan, brief, execute, debrief, right? Um,
Mm.
Really, it's a process is all it is, just like any other planning process. Your business people are going to have their business planning process, and then you got the PMP process. We had the military decision making process. You have OODA loops. You have all of these things, and they're all really designed to do the same things. Somebody got rich by putting another name on them. Maybe I'll get rich by putting
Mm.
another name on it. I don't know. But really, what are you doing? You are breaking down whatever problem you perceive that you have, you're breaking it down, right? And you're going to figure out a plan of how to solve that problem. That's the planning piece of it. And we go into great detail on how to plan, how to put together all the pieces, how to I use this mantra that I learned years ago. We call it the 5 T's. It's task, target, threat, tactic, time. And that's the way I break every plan down. I used it in football. In fact, I just wrote a whole coach's guide for a youth football squad out here in Phoenix. And I put all of that in there. Here's the 5 T's, man. If you're a new coach and you can learn how to do this every week, you're going to be a winner. I promise you, because you're going to have a
Mm.
more solid plan, a more well-rounded, detailed plan than the other guy who's just going out and shotgun blasting willy-nilly trying to put some stuff together, right? Everything that we practice had a purpose, and that purpose brought us to game day and our game plan. So, um, and then posturing is really just setting up the pieces on the board. You
Mm.
I told you my wife and I just did this fitness challenge, or this mental challenge for 75 days, and she took a week before we started. We set a start date out there, and she took a week to posture. She made sure she had her running shoes and all of her workout gear that she needed. She bought a belt with a couple of little water bottles so when
Mm.
she went out walking, she had her water right there with her. She bought some new earbuds, and she downloaded a book on Audible, so she had all the pieces there, so that when it came to go time, here we go, execute, she had everything that she needed. And it wasn't like she was sitting there, looking around for everything. You've got it. It's within arm's reach. That's posturing, right? And you can apply this to buying a house. You can apply it to picking the kids up from school. You can apply it to your next marathon you want to run. It really doesn't matter. Whatever problem it is, excuse me, that you're trying to tackle, you can break it down into very small bite-sized chunks, plan it out, get your pieces together, and then the performance phase is just execute the plan. however you laid out the plan in stages or phases or whatever. I use the term knocking down dominoes. Just start knocking down dominoes, man.
Mm.
Whatever the next domino is, knock it down, move on.
So Warren Buffett has a great plan quote. An idiot with a plan will always win over a genius without one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Herm Edwards. If you
Yeah.
fail to
Yeah.
plan, you plan to fail, right?
Yeah. That goes all the way back to Ben Franklin too. Winston
Oh, really?
Churchill had a good one. It says, I'm not really so interested in the plan itself, but more the fact that we did the plan.
Mm. Yeah, it's so simple, so simple. Paul Roscoe White, what motivates you?
Um, I like I'm an instructor, I'm a teacher, I'm a mentor, I'm a coach, and the things that motivate me are seeing that aha moment on somebody else's face. Like, it took my wife about it took her about 45 to 50 days in this last challenge. She ended up losing 24 pounds.
Wow.
Um, her Well, when she started, she couldn't even she was getting winded walking a mile. And the other day she texted me, she was so happy she ran a mile nonstop in 12 minutes. And it's those little things, like when I see the elation on her face, that makes me happy as, being her sidekick and kind of I was her motivator and her pusher for a lot of this stuff. Anytime I've had a chance to coach somebody one on one or, be in a debrief at work, and explain something to someone so that they can understand it and so that they get it, and you just see that light bulb come on and they kind of have that look on their face like, "Ah, I get it now." That's what I get off on that, man. That's There's just
Mm.
no better feeling in the world than to know that you made a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah, helping friends, and knowing that you just had even the smallest, percentage of help. It's so rewarding.
Yeah.
It's so rewarding because you'll get it back. You just know you will, and it's not the motivation for doing it, but it's just a great thing. And so, how do you measure success?
Yeah. I measure success, and this goes back to our previous discussion. We didn't want to spoil it for the listeners, but
Mm.
um I think, and this is how I define it, right? Success is the journey. Success is the process. Um, it's those small victories that you get, like run into a tree. That was success for me. Now, for somebody else, running 100 yards to a tree in Alabama, that may not be success. Look at some of these ultra
Mm.
marathoners out there who run in hundreds of miles at a time. That's not success to them. But for me, in my personal journey, that was a successful moment. And so as I strung those together and got to where I did a Spartan race and I did a half marathon and then I did a Tough Mudder race with my wife, I mean, those are
Awesome.
all small measures of success to me and the journey that I'm going on. Fitness is, you want to bring it down to fitness. And I know we talked a lot about that, and because it's so easy to draw the lines of parallel when you talk
Mm.
about physical fitness. It's just so easy, right? Because you are 100% in control of your level of health and fitness. You control what you put in your mouth. You control how many calories you burn during a day, how many steps you take, all of those things. And weight loss is not tricky. The math equation goes something like this: make calories out more than calories in. It's not hard, right? So I heard one guy. Oh gosh, I think it was Sean Whalen, Lions Not Sheep guy. He described it as, you want to be in shape, pick heavy shit up, put heavy shit down, stop eating like shit. That's it. It's not complicated, right? But you can translate that so easily and so well to almost
Mm.
every other aspect of your life, and find those things that you're in control of and enjoy that process of completing tasks. Uh, I like to write things on a whiteboard, right? My to-do list, I like to write it on a whiteboard. And at the end of the day, there's no better feeling than going up there and erasing that thing, right? That's that feeling of accomplishment. That's when you go look at yourself in the mirror at night before you go to bed. You're like, yeah, man, I won. I won today. I moved the ball a little bit. That to me is how I measure success.
Yeah, but you don't like any red on that board.
No, no, I wrote that down somewhere. I have an accountability board that I log kind of my daily events on. It's super caveman, you know. It's just little check marks, and this is what I did for my workout. I ran today, or I did the elliptical today, or whatever. And if I take a rest day, or if I don't meet my task, I write that in red. I color code everything on there, and if I see red on the board, I kind of get pissed off. So that motivates me. But then that's that self discipline piece of it, and um, I so you have these two voices in your mind, right? At all
Mm,
times. You have an empathetic voice and you have an apathetic voice. And some people will call it the bitch voice or the boss voice. I
mm.
call it the inner quitter and the inner
Angel devil.
champion.
Mm,
So I named my inner quitter, I named him Stan. So anytime I'm feeling like I'm not measuring up or I'm getting tired, I maybe I forgot to do my journaling and I just laid down and I'm like, oh shit, I got to get up and do my journaling. Stan is the one that's telling me, dude, you're already in bed. Isn't this comfortable? You don't want to get out of bed and go writing a stupid book for a little bit, or you're out jogging in the Arizona heat, and he's like, man, it's really hot. We should just, maybe we just go jump in the pool instead. No, man, that that's your inner quitter trying to get you to take the path of least resistance and get you to give up on something, right? And that discipline piece of it comes in when you can learn to tell that voice in your head to shut the hell up and go with
mm,
the champion voice, which I named Jack. And I listen to Jack more than I listen to Stan. Again,
mm.
simple equation, and that's about it.
You mentioned one particular point there, how it's all your fault. When I got to that point of my weight, and the doctor who's still my doctor to this day, and they said, you're 340 pounds and you're not going to see your daughter graduate. I remember thinking to myself, I did this to myself. I'm going to get it out. And I didn't tell anybody that I'm changing the way. I didn't go on a diet. I changed the way I did things. I changed the way I ate. I didn't suffer. I still had a hamburger, but you know what? I didn't have three. I had one. And you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I still had ice cream every once in a while, but I had it once a week, not five. And
Yeah.
and I exercise. And it really, you got yourself there, you get yourself out,
Yeah.
and it's important.
No, you absolutely can. You can get yourself out of whatever you got yourself into. And uh, almost almost 100% of the time, if you keep peeling back the onion far enough and you get to the middle of it, you'll find where you made a decision and that is what got you to where you're at.
Mm,
Whether it's your physical health or your mental health or your finances or whatever predicament you perceive yourself to be in, if you go back far enough, I mean, we're sitting here today. You and I are sitting here today. The people that we are, the conversation that we're having, 100% because of the decisions that we made
that's right.
along the way. And we could peel it all the way back to childhood, or we can peel it back to a month ago or so when we got hooked up and agreed to be on the podcast together. But the person that I am today, the person that you are today, the person that my wife is today is all about the decisions that we make.
Mm. How important is it to celebrate even the smallest of victories or goals? Or when you ran to that tree, in your mind, you still kind of gave yourself a high five, right? You still kind of, rejoiced in it. I see sometimes people get these goals, they just shove it aside, they achieve it, and then they go to the next one. But you should kind of give yourself a quick little cheer,
Yeah,
correct?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask about that because I tend to be
Ah,
my own critic, my own worst critic. Um I tend to be pretty hard on myself and I don't allow myself to get too excited.
mm,
I try to ride a very calm wave, never too high, never too low kind of thing. And so I put the book out. There's an example. I put the book out December 12th it launched. That was on a Tuesday. On Friday morning we hit bestseller. And
nice.
I was excited for about maybe not even 24 hours. And then it was like,
Mm,
okay, now what's next? But
mm.
go back to, how do you define success? And it's all about that moving goalpost and kind of those moving goals. And so for your listeners, don't listen to me. Um,
Mm.
it is important. I celebrated my wife's victories recently, way more than I celebrated my own. I
Yeah.
mean, I recently just set a PR on my 4 miler around the desert out here, but I think you might be the first person I just told that to.
Mm.
I'm just not that kind of guy to rest on my laurels and kind of celebrate those kinds of things. It's like, okay, well, I think I can do better. I think I can run faster, you know. So yeah, to answer your question, I think it is important. I think psychologically, not only do you need to reward yourself, but you need to take a little bit of time to just kind of unwind. Especially if you've had a project that's lasted for a really long time and you've put a lot of
Right.
blood, sweat, and tears into it, and you've gotten emotionally charged about it. Don't be ashamed about just going on the back porch and kicking your feet up with a good glass and watch the wind for a little bit.
Mm. Yeah, I make a good play. I make a birdie or something in golf, for example. I don't pump my fist. I think if I played football, it's hard to tell. I don't know if I would slam the football down. I don't know. I just kind of okay. I was supposed to do this. I'm expected to do this. Let's go on now. We got more holes to play, or we got the rest of
Yeah.
the game. But I guess in my mind, I'm like, all right, good. That's good. Now let's move on. So I'm a terrible critic to myself. Perhaps we have that in common. There's no worse critic than myself. But then I see others kind of take that to a different extreme. I think it is important just to kind of pause for a moment. It is something I worked on, and now it's done. Now let's move on. I guess it varies to different degrees. This is such a great. I'm so happy that you accepted this. I was excited to talk to you for a long time.
Mm.
I really appreciate your time today. How can we get in touch with you?
My website, www.paulroscoewhite.com. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Paul Roscoe White. On the website, the checklist and those kinds of things, my books, links to my books, all live on there. And then we got Work Hard, Don't Suck is coming out. We're targeting middle of next month because I have some unique marketing opportunities that are coming up. So it's getting ready to get sent tonight to the interior designer, kind of a rush job. And
Exciting.
um, yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm pumped up. Like the no new lessons thing it was kind of a side project, it's a side piece. Just it was fun. I learned a lot about how to put together a book, how to write that many words,
Mm,
and just the process of getting all those pieces to line up. But I've really put a lot of effort into this one, and everybody that I tell the title to, they just immediately they're like, "Oh my god, I gotta have this." Just work hard, don't suck. It's kind of the secret to life when you break it down. If you
mm,
can just do those
mm.
two things, work hard and suck less than you did yesterday, and you're going to be okay.
Very cool. Paul, just like it sounds, Roscoe, Roscoe, White, White. We'll make sure to put it in the show notes. I thank you so much for your time, Roscoe. If I'm, there in the valley, we'll go have a Mountain Dew and a Snickers.
Yeah, man. Look forward to it. This was awesome. Appreciate it.
I, I appreciate it. You be well.
All right. You too.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.